So I'm going to present about my PLC plan for my EDOL 647 class through the University of the Cumberlands. So our agenda for our PLC today, the first thing is my presentation, which should take about 15 minutes. Then we're going to go over the next unit's learning check and common assessment, and then we are going to spend some time talking about our first period math intervention. And I think what I'm going to present about could be something that we incorporate into our math intervention class that could be helpful to those students. So the table of contents for my presentation, first I'm going to discuss my personal vision statement as a teacher. We're going to talk about the problem that I noticed within my classes and then the strategy that I implemented to help with that problem. There was an article that I read to help support what I decided to do, so I'm going to discuss what their findings were. I broke down my results for each class so we can look at how each class was impacted. I also pulled grade cam results from your guys' class so we could kind of compare if we thought it made a difference. Talk about how I implemented it, the adjustments that I plan on making, and the next steps in seeing if this is something maybe we want to continue or just do in our intervention classes. So I had to write a vision statement about myself as a teacher, and it was just really interesting to me to kind of briefly, in this 50 to 100 words, talk about where I see myself going. And so this is what I was able to come up with. It is my vision to be a positive role model who instills a lifelong love for learning in her students while challenging them to achieve their individual goals. I want to continue to develop professionally and be a leader within my school to help promote a positive culture and a safe learning environment. Okay, so the assignment was to look at my class and come up with something that I thought was a problem and something that could easily, so I wanted it to not take a lot of time and be something that I felt would be beneficial to my students. So really the problem that myself and my collaborated teacher decided that was going on was my kids do not know basic math facts. Do you guys have the same problem in your classroom? Okay, they're using their fingers, it takes them forever to solve a simple problem. That I asked them, okay, we've got 10 and we have 6. How many more do we need? And I heard 3 and 2, and it took about 60 seconds before someone to come up with the right answer of 4. I was just so shocked that really they just can't quickly be able to compute the things that I think they should be able to do. So we were heading into long division, and when you're long dividing, you need to do multiplication, division, and the one thing that I felt that most of them messed up on was the subtraction part. Actually, they could made them list out their multiples and they were okay with that, but when they got down to subtraction, that was where the struggle was. So I just noticed that, especially with me having all the special ed 7th grade students, they really just lack those fluency and those math fact skills. So that was the problem that I identified. So what I decided to do was to give daily 3-minute timed quizzes. So I'll show you here in a second, but it's the math that I think we're all familiar with. I gave them 3 minutes. I felt like they wouldn't feel successful in a minute, especially those students who count on their hands. They wouldn't be able to get much done. I mean, in the 3 minutes, as you will see in a second, some of them only got 12 problems. They were proud of those 12 problems, but I felt like in a minute, if they were only getting 3 or 4 right, they wouldn't have felt successful. So I gave them the time quizzes. The one thing I really liked about it is that there was addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division in them. So if it was all multiplication or all division, I don't think it would have been as successful. I know one day I made a mistake on the answer key and they thought it was funny, and a lot of them would mess up the multiplication with the addition and mess up there. But I just think it was being able to jump not only through the different problems, but through the different operations quickly. So I gave my students time quizzes all last week, and this week, as I will show you, I'm implementing it a little less and not doing it every day. Here's the article that I read. It was the relative value of growth in math fact skills across late elementary and middle school. It was from the Assessment for Effective Intervention Journal, and I'm just going to talk about here in a second what that article found. So they had 1,493 elementary and middle schools that participated. What they did was similar to what I did in their math intervention class. They really had those math facts as something that they had the students participate in. They saw the most impact on 4th grade students, which obviously that's where you would probably want them to develop those basic skills, because math just gets harder from there and you need that foundation. It did have less of an impact on middle school students. Like I said, I have all the collab classes, so I still thought it would be something. And they did make improvements, just obviously not as much as the 4th graders will. They saw a correlation that knowledge of math facts may be an indicator of proficiency. my classes are a little kind of different this year because I have 3 collab classes, and then at the end of the day I teach 2 accelerated classes. And really, I've noticed one of the main differences that those kids know their math facts, and I think them gaining it at an early age has led them along a path to be proficient and to be in an accelerated class. So I definitely think there is something there that if hopefully it happens in elementary school and it makes them more successful. But if it doesn't, I think it's something that we need to work on, because they will see it in our other units this year, like when they combine like terms and solve equations and things like that. So they did see improved MAP and state testing scores after they focused on putting the math facts in the classroom. Okay, here is what I did. So here's a sample of what it looks like. So not super hard problems, 4 minus 1, 10 times 2. Like I said, it was 100 problems, and they were given 3 minutes. Each day I let them grade their own papers, and they were excited about it. They wrote down some of them, I don't know how they did it, but they knew what their scores were for all 5 days, and by the end of the week they knew if they went up or down, and so they were excited to keep track. And I actually, with my first period class, I would do it with them, and as I was doing it, it was hard. I was getting it done as quick as I could and jumping back and forth from multiplication, division, and to subtraction. It was challenging for them, and just trying to get it done as fast as they could. I think they really enjoyed it. So I have 3 classes, so I'm going to go through the results of each class. Here's my 3rd period class. I broke it down a little bit. There are 18 boys, 6 girls in that class, and 9 IEPs. The highlighted students are the students who didn't go down. So this student, they didn't increase from day 2 to 3, but throughout the 5 days they were able to make jumps or stay the same each day. So 33% of my students were able to improve each day. On day 1, they averaged 26 correct. On day 2, they averaged 30 correct, then 46 and 48, and then 50. So that's quite a jump, twice as many right almost by the end of the 5 days, and they were able to make steady increases each day. And this is my class that probably scores the lowest out of the 3. So I think this probably was the most beneficial to them because they really lack those math facts. Here's my 4th period class. This class has 8 boys, 17 girls, 9 IEPs in this class, 32%, so a similar percentage were able to improve each day. They started out a little bit higher, and they pretty much doubled their average also and made steady improvements each day, going from 32 to 44, 50, a little bit higher at 51, and then by day 5 it was 61. And I was able to see that, just the students being more comfortable with what they were doing, kind of getting the hang of it. That first day they were like, why are you giving us this? And by the end of the week they were really excited to do it each time. Finally, my 5th period, they had 35% of students improve each day. They were the only class that didn't improve each day. I don't know what happened, but for some reason on day 3 they really rocked it, and then day 4 went back to normal, and then day 5. So I don't know. I did have a lot of absences this week, and there was a lot of sicknesses. I don't know, just certain kids weren't there that day or what, or if everybody was there on day 3, I don't know what it was to make them go up on day 3. But that class has 15 boys, 8 girls, and 6 IEPs. Any questions about my results so far? So then what I did is I went into Grade Cam, and I put all of our 7th grade classes in here. I didn't do my accelerated classes. I didn't put this in place for them because they already know their math facts, and I didn't think it would be something that would be beneficial to them. So really the focus is on questions 11 through 15. So 1 through 5 was done before I did this, as was 6 through 10. That was the multiplying and dividing sign numbers. Those problems were pretty easy. I know that when we made the common assessment, we wanted it to focus more on whether they knew if the answer was going to be positive or negative rather than the multiplication. So the problems that they saw in there might have been -6 times 10. So they had time on the assessment to really think about that and not need to do it rather quickly. So what I really wanted to see the impact on was those questions 11 through 15, where they were using the long division and they needed to, multiply, add, or subtract and divide. So here's how my classes did. There's no red, which is good. I was excited about that. This is probably the best learning check that I've seen them take all year. And I know they really struggled at first, and then I ended up doing whiteboards and markers. I don't know did you guys do that in your class, whiteboards and markers with the long division?
I did.
You did?
With my lowest group.
Yeah, I think that really helped them because myself and my collaborative teacher were really able to walk around and point out the mistakes. And so I would also attribute them doing well to that. But they weren't asking questions about the math facts and the things like that. So I definitely think it made an improvement. I don't know, my 5th hour usually does the best. They actually did the worst this time, so I don't know. It would be interesting to ask them what they think happened on that, because they usually perform the highest, and my 3rd and 4th hour actually outperformed them this time. But, so that I just thought it would be interesting to compare the 3 classes. My classes normally score lower than you, and they did for the most part, but this is the best that they've scored all year, so I was really proud of their results. So the adjustments that I want to make, like I said, the first week I did it all 5 days. I just wanted it to be something that I could really see for 5 days and track the results. This week I'm only going to give it 3 out of the 5 days. And it was funny because yesterday I didn't do it, and they were like, "We're not doing that? What? Where's it at? Why aren't we doing that?" And so it was really exciting to see that was something that they enjoyed, because we know math isn't always their favorite subject. And also this week, what I want to do, like I said, I saw students who were keeping track of their individual scores themselves, and they were excited to see if they went up or down. They knew what their score was the day before. They had memorized it, and they knew if they were beating it or not. But I think to officially keep track of their scores each day, so that way they start out with their goal in mind if they weren't doing that already, and then that would give them the basis to get started. Okay, so here's the summary of the learning and the next steps that I see. So, like I said, my students performed better than expected on the learning checks. It was probably their best learning check all year. We didn't have any of the red questions on GradeCam. There was 1 yellow, so that's really good. It's something that I want to see when my kids take an assessment. The confidence that we saw. They were so excited to tell the person next to them what their score, what'd you get, and they wanted to beat the person next to them. Like I said, the first day, they didn't want to do it. Why are we doing this? It was extra work. And then they were excited about it by the end of the week, and they asked why we didn't do it on the day we didn't do it. So it was just exciting to see their enthusiasm. We did it right after bell work, so it was kind of just get your brain, get you woken up. It was one of those fast things that got them moving before we started class that day, so that was really fun for them. The next step, so I thought about maybe doing it once a week. I don't want it to take away too much from class time, but I think it'd be something that I could look forward to maybe every Friday, doing at the beginning of class, getting them warmed up. I would love to see them track and even graph their results. I know we don't hit graphing a lot in 7th grade. I know they do it in 6th grade, but I know my students don't know how to graph and have trouble with that. So I thought it'd be an easy way to incorporate some extra math in there for them. And then I thought about, which I would love to hear his opinion on this, increasing the difficulty, giving them less time. I thought about maybe doing a day of all multiplication, or all subtraction, all division, things like that. I don't know. I want it to be something they look forward to, and I feel like eventually they're going to get bored of doing 2 + 1 and simple problems like that. So, and I know we're supposed to talk about intervention later, but I definitely think this could, especially those novice students in our intervention, this might be something that we want to do with them. It's easy. You just print it off, go over it. Like I said, it's something that motivates them, get excited. It's math that they know how to do, so that frustration level isn't there. They get frustrated, they don't beat their score, but it's something that they feel comfortable doing. So any questions or any thoughts about this?
I really like the idea of putting it into our intervention. Plus, it goes along with some of the fluency things that we use in Eureka.
Yes, I know Eureka Math that we've been doing this year and implementing. The problems aren't difficult, and I think that's where we've kind of run into some trouble in the past, is we not only put our standards in there, but we make these really hard problems that they're not missing it because they don't know how to do a negative times a negative. They're missing it because they don't know how to multiply. So this year we really kind of stepped back and done the simpler problems, and I think it's definitely made a difference in the motivation of my class. I'll have students who do well in the learning check, and so they are confident in themselves, and they'll do better than they have all year because they know they can do it, and we're not making it, the math, too high above their level. So I think, maybe every Friday, an intervention, especially if we don't want to do it into our regular math classes, or maybe if you guys have a higher class, you don't need to do it in, I didn't do it in my accelerated, but I definitely think it's something that is worth the time. It's not a lot of time. It took 3 minutes and 2 minutes to grade it, so 5 minutes of my class was taken, and I really saw a lot of positive results. So, all right, thank you guys for your time.
I have two questions for you.
Yes.
One, how did the students with the IEP who usually gets a calculator, how did they react to not having a calculator to do the math problems?
So they didn't get a calculator. It was funny because not the ones with the calculators, but the students with the IEPs, one of them was my highest scorer in 3rd hour and was getting 80 of them right every day with the IEP. I know one student particularly, she does get a calculator, and she was so cute every day. She got 12 out of 100, and she wrote 88 to go at the top of her page, and she was just excited to be on. She did increase every day, and she was really proud of that. So even though she didn't care that she wasn't getting 50 right like the person next to her, she was just proud that she was making improvements. So they weren't frustrated that they didn't get a calculator. And Miss Price, my special teacher, she said, go and do all the addition ones, or go and do the ones that, don't worry about the division ones. And so they focused on that, and eventually I hope they would get to the point where they were doing the addition ones and the subtraction ones, and the multiplication ones.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys.